that new wave. Future Hendrix. Yeah. Oh, that's shit.
Hi, welcome to my Sociology Project for Professor Zakari. I am Tyler Seeger, and I am a freshman mechanical engineering major from Cincinnati, Ohio. And we were given this project because we were trying to figure out what is the sociological problem with single parenthood and divorce. And in the project, we were given a mission. We had to interview at least 4 African Americans, ages 35 and above, and none of them could be Tuskegee staff or faculty. So you really had to ask people either you knew or you didn't know, and you were really trying to get their opinion, like who was affected, whether it was African Americans, Latinos, Native Americans, and really trying to like figure out the dimensions and the boundaries of the problem. So like the disparities in single parent families. My teacher professor, he wanted us to figure out like how serious the problem was, and he gave us a lot of examples and a lot of really hard thinking questions. When I was reading the question before I even began the project, I was like, oh my goodness, because every single question was so thorough and it asked you so many questions within one question. And so I really believe that he was trying to make us go deep and really get what people feel about it in their opinion on the topics. So I'm going to introduce you to the 4 African Americans I interviewed. I interviewed 2 females and 2 males, and I hope you enjoy my project. This is Janine Smith. Janine Smith was born and raised in Cincinnati, Ohio. She went to Withrow High School and went on to attend the University of Cincinnati. At the University of Cincinnati, she received her degree in English. And now she is an English teacher, and she is also a realtor. Marcus Williams was born and raised in Cincinnati, Ohio. He went to Walnut Hills High School and then went on to attend North Carolina A&T, where he got his degree in electrical engineering. Marcus currently lives in Sunnyvale, California, where he works at Texas Instrument and Molex. He is a sales engineer. He has also worked for Lockheed Martin, Intel, and interned at GE. Brandon Rogers was born and raised in Cincinnati, Ohio. He went to Withrow High School and then went on to attend Indiana University, where he got his degree in sports management. He has went on to become a gym teacher at various high schools and also work in the manufacturing field. And now he currently lives in Atlanta, Georgia. Blair Jason Williams is from Detroit, Michigan, where she went to West Bloomfield High School. She went on to attend the University of Southern California, where she double majored in international business and marketing. She also majored in Mandarin Chinese. She is currently a global marketing major at Informa Telecoms and Media in Mountain View, California. Most couples say they are married because they love their spouse, but what do they think love is? So, what exactly is love? Or what is the definition of love? People think love is something simple because it's a four-letter word. But love is defined in many ways. Love can be defined as a noun, which means an intense feeling of deep affection for someone, a person or thing that one loves, or it can be used as a verb. Feel a deep romantic or sexual attachment to someone. But I interviewed people, so now you get to see what they
What do
think.
you think love is?
Okay. I think love is the unwilling commitment to go over and beyond the person that you are committed to and sacrifice everything that you have to make that person happy.
At all?
Yes.
What?
It's okay. Don't ignore the camera. It's fine.
Oh, look, singing.
So do you
Is
have
it
the camera
recording
on?
now?
It's fine. It's fine.
So
Just
just
ignore
start talking? So I can start talking now?
You can if you like.
Love is. Let me get poetic with this. So there are a lot of facets to love. You have love in the religious sense, by the Bible. You have love spiritually. You have love on an emotional level. And then the three most important words in our vows: trust, respect, and faith. So love, as in, I guess, in terms of like the emotional um, connection, the bonding, the chemistry, the connectivity that we have is, I don't think like that's important, but that's not what holds a marriage together. What holds a marriage together is the communication, the trust, the faith, the respect, the perseverance. That is love. As long as you have God in your relationship, that is an important part of love.
I think love is developed. So through all the facets that you explained, it's something that you have to work on and develop. So
Okay, so I think that love is an action word. It's a choice. It's something um, that you do. It's not something that you just say like I feel love. Like this is just something that I fell into. I think that love isn't. It's something that you do over and over again. That you do consciously, um, and that you do from the purest place in yourself.
What will make love, as they define it, last so that there will be a successful and or stable marriage?
I think the two things that will make love last, and the way I define love, is going to be commitment and communication. Because through any issues or challenges you go through, if you're committed to resolve it, that'll go a long way. And if you're communicate well, where you communicate the problems and the resolution, that'll help love go a long way.
I agree. Commitment and communication are the two most important values to have in a relationship. Especially the communication will help you build trust, help you build love, help you build memories. In addition to those two, are respect. So respect is extremely important. So, but again, as long as you keep that communication, that commitment, and the respect there, then the love will continue to grow.
What would make love last would be two people, or last in a relationship or a marriage, would be two people who are constantly choosing to love each other every day. Like, no matter what the circumstances are, no matter what the situation looks like today, knowing that they have a real love for each other and that they have a real choice in the fact that they want to love each other and that they choose to do it every single day, no matter what. That's what will make the relationship successful.
Well, to keep a stable marriage, with love, I think you have to be willing to open up to a person and be able to communicate with them, try new things, and keep the marriage fresh and always open and honest.
So, stating it differently, what are the keys to a happy relationship and or marriage?
Okay, so the keys to a happy relationship and a marriage would be two people that actually like each other. Like you can fall in love and love somebody, but yeah, you know, if you don't like them, it's no fun. Like it's not gonna last because it's the once you people. I think that in a relationship people fall in and out of love all the time, but if you genuinely like the other person, then I think that helps being friends first and truly because when I think with friendships you don't veer from that, you know, you care about their feelings, you care about um, them being okay, them being good. So I think that that's what can create a lasting marriage. Is that what the question was?
Just the keys, yes.
Oh, you might have to ask the question over again or something. But I think that the keys to a successful marriage relationship would be to be friends first, because when you're friends, you would care about each other and you care about how they're feeling and how what you do affects them and what you say and you're putting them first, what you would do with friends, and also being a key would be like having a sense of humor because you can't laugh at yourself or laugh with your significant other, then that makes a pretty hard life. So I think that being friends and having a sense of humor and true genuine love for each other that y'all um, do every day and choose to do every day makes all the difference in the key to really being a successful relationship.
Some of my keys to a happy marriage would be spontaneity, also willing to be able to, I guess, be in a position to care enough to sacrifice everything you have, which means to me is that you should always keep it fresh and one key is to surprise your spouse or mate every now and then.
That's all your keys?
Not all of them. I can't give you all of them. Just give you some of them. It might not work for everybody.
You know, I'm just kidding.
Well, I come from a stubborn family, so I guess my key is to really understand, um, to be open to the minimum times that I am wrong, and being just open to that. I am stubborn and things have to change. So I think that's probably my key way because I'm used to doing things a certain way, but when you're married to someone, you gotta compromise. So that's my key.
Well, since I'm always right, I'm just kidding. But I think you have to have an open mind and an open heart. You need to, again, as long as you have the communication and the respect there, you will have the trust. So you have to give your partner the benefit of the doubt and practicing empathy. Being empathetic is extremely important. So that will build a happy relationship.
So, I asked each person what they thought about cohabitation, single parenthood, and illegitimacy in American communities. Now, before I even get into the answers to that question, I really want to read the example that was given to us for this question. The example that was given to us says, for example, the problems of violence and teenage pregnancy are beginning to manifest themselves and a kind of nihilistic destruction in the ghetto that is reflective of lost hope, low self-esteem, and the breakdown of family.
So, to me first. So, when it comes to cohabitation, I understand, okay, coexisting, learning how to live under one household, learning how to get used to each other's norms and growing together. I understand how you want to experience that before you make such a serious commitment, such as marriage or bringing another life into this world. Just to make sure you can know how to coexist, know how to coexist in one household. However, on the other side, the reason why he and I decided to wait to live together until after marriage, or technically a month before marriage, so once it's almost right there on paper, is because we wanted to save that for marriage. We believe for marriage that's a really big and important part as being one, is learning how to live together, learning how to grow together, experience together, and most importantly, coexisting together. My concern when it comes to the community, when you coexist or you cohabitate and in a household before you have marriage or before children, is that it allows for easy excuses. It's like, okay, well, we've already done all the actions, so why do you need the commitment? Or sometimes when you're living together, um, unplanned pregnancies can happen that way as well. So I just feel like you should just do it the official and proper, or not the proper way, but the biblical way.
In regards to single parent household, I think the impact is felt current in today's society when you're in a single parent household, because that's only one income you have, and the opportunities that child has to advance and to get the best education is limited versus when you have a two parent household income. It's also psychological as well, but for the I think looking forward, looking at the other side, it also, just from my example, just single parent household where the dad is missing, it builds that inner drive to, hey, when I have kids, I'm going to do what I didn't have, or I'm going to get what I didn't have. Vice versa, if you didn't have a mother, you're going to say, hey, I want to make sure I get a wife who gives my child that same type of attention that I missed. So it creates that void for you to have that desire moving forward in your future.
And then the illegitimate children. I mean, we live in a modern world, so things can't always go as planned. You can't have this perfect world that you want for your child all the time. So I think it's important that as long as the child grows up knowing that he or she is valued, that he or she is not a mistake, it's the best surprise that parent has had, and that they have a community, whether it's biological or adopted. As long as they have a community that raises them, that teaches them the proper foundations of God, of love, marriage, respect, etc., family. As long as they have those values instilled in them, that's my take on illegitimate children. As long as they have that foundation, it's when any of those resources are lacking, where they feel limited, or when they feel that they're not getting the time that they need from both parents, or from one parent, or any parents at all. When you kind of leave them on their own, you can't grow. It doesn't really foster a growing spirit.
I'm here. When I began this project and I started reading the questions, I was like, cohabitation, no, it's cohabitation. And what cohabitation is or means is to live together as if married, but usually without legal or religious sanction. It can also just be used as to live together in an intimate relationship, or to dwell with another or share the same place as if different species of animals. So, fun fact, just in case you guys didn't know the definition of cohabitation, because I didn't.
Well, my answer to that would be it has been a growing problem for a long time. It just hasn't started. I think the issue is that growing up with one parent is pretty much due to, and it's mostly mothers raising single men or single women without the presence of a father or male figure. That's an issue because they don't get to see the both sides of parenting. They just get to see one angle. And most parents are young and not able to raise a child by themselves. And when you don't have the help of a father or a community raising a child, which is they're lacking also, you just get this one parent who's struggling. More than likely is not highly educated, but not in all instances, but some, and doesn't have the support that she needs, or that can raise a young male or female in this society today.
Okay. So let's see what I think about cohabitation. I think that each individual relationship depends on the people who are in it. I think that all too often people are more concerned about what society thinks and putting on a good face than they are worried about their actual relationship and being happy. And so I think that that's the first part and foremost. Um, so cohabitation is, I guess, it's fine for those people who can do it, and not fine for people who want more or are looking for it to become more. Um, as far as single parenthood, um, I think that single parenthood is something that is successful or unsuccessful based upon your village, because I think that it takes a village to raise a child, and that if you have the right village surrounding a child, then it's not really a single parent. It's more just the different dynamics and what that looks like as far as a family goes. Because I think that there are people, obviously, there are great people that come out of single parents. But I think that you have to just make sure that you're surrounding yourself and surrounding your child with people who will pour into them great and awesome things so that they can be the best that they can be, and never have them to lack or always pour into them so that their self-esteem is high, so that they're not prone to some of the examples. I think that some of the examples given behind this question were kind of unconnected. I don't think that you can clump single parenthood into the ghetto and into violence or any of that stuff. I think that you can have two parents or be married and still be in the ghetto, or still be violent, or still be outside of the ghetto, and still get some of those kinds of um, qualities. It's just a matter of what you are actually teaching your child at home, or what you're teaching within your family, what your own family morals and values. I think morals and values is probably the bigger question that comes along the line with what was asked in that question, and it's the morals and the values that people are lacking, no matter what kind of household they come from. If you are lacking morals and values and you're not teaching that to the people or the children that you are creating within your household, then that's where the low self-esteem comes from, because you don't have any morals or anything to stand on. So if you don't believe in anything, then it's really hard to believe in yourself. So you have to be teaching and giving a foundation with morals and values, and really in God, you have to be putting God first, and that's important no matter what kind of household you come from. And as long as you have God at the center of what your household is, whether it's cohabitating or whether it's a single parent home or whatever. If you in the ghetto, you still don't have to fall victim to any of that, as long as you are putting the right things into your family. Illegitimacy. The same thing. You gotta be a single parent if it's illegitimacy. That means you're not married, having a kid.
So the next question is, are what we are experiencing in African American communities today regarding family and marriages the same as compared to the people I was interviewing when they were growing up? So while reading this project, I decided that for question C, when it asks about regarding family and marriages and relationships now, that you have to get an opinion for someone in this day and age like me. and it's my project, and this is my creativity. So I'm going to give my opinion on this question as well. Growing up, I think it's going to be really hard for our generation to find real, true happiness and love with another person, because people, like in our generation, they use social media and they get bored with each other really quickly, so they don't really get to know and to understand another person. When I talk to all of my family members about this project, they will always say they will have to call their house phone. They couldn't send them text messages. They will have to mail them letters and really have to sit down and talk to and know that person, as opposed to looking on their Facebook or their Twitter or their Instagram to, try to figure out who they are. Because most people, they kind of put on a front for others on their social media. And so, honestly, people are wanting something that they can't have. They want their girl to be perfect. They want her to have the beautiful long hair and the perfect body and everything that they see on the internet. But in reality, that's not what you're going to get. And they're not looking for what's in the long term. They're not looking for the person. They're looking for the physical. And so I think it's going to be harder for others to, or especially like for me or like for other people to really find true love and true happiness in a marriage. And I feel like if you proceed and continue to do this project for years and years, 10s and 20s of years, that the answers are gradually going to change, like drastically, because it's a whole change in generation. With the internet and everything, it just did a complete flip, a complete 360 turn. And you just have to see what the future holds.
So I always say traditional, but should I say in the baby boomers' times, those are my parents, that they said that the guy pursues the woman, and he didn't have easy technology to help him, so you couldn't always give a call on a cell phone or have social media there or send an email, no electronic communication really. So you really had to go out of your way and be quite creative and really pursue the woman. So I feel that men were quite romantic, quite poetic really, when it came to the pursuit of their true love or anyone that they're really interested in. At the same time, if you go to the 70s, they have a little bit more of the free spirits, but I think in terms of relationships and marriages and love and the growing couples, in my parents' time, they had other struggles to be concerned about in terms of things that are going on in the world, such as race equality and the concern about segregation. So that's really brought them together because we had that community and just bringing them together. Whereas nowadays they say that our generation, everything is handed to us, so we don't really have to fight for anything. So I think that creates a different balance in the relationship when you have technology to rely on, and then you're not both fighting towards one thing together for a greater cause, or we're both really just fighting for our careers and education really.
And I think the main difference is in our generation, we have the start of the tools like Facebook to communicate when it comes to dating. But I think moving forward on generations after us, the main difference is the time of communication to get in front of the girl or man that you are actually trying to date is reduced, because it takes time to write a Facebook message or to friend you and all that. But then now it's all about Tinder, where you can just like or dislike and see somebody across the room. Next, we don't know what's going to come. So I just think the chase or the hey, you see, like before my generation is, hey, I walk up to you in the club or I see you on the street and get the number at first, then you go back and call back and forth. Now it's about Tinder. It's like check mark, hey, let's go. But
yeah,
I think that's a really big difference.
Far more literal when they say, oh, there are many fish in the sea. Like now you have access to try to catch those fish now. So where back in the day it's just like had to be a similar neighborhood or community or something. So yeah.
Well, I think when I was growing up, I think what you see now was the beginning of what has happened, what has led to today, with the lack of marriages in the black neighborhood, the divorce rate being higher, single parents raising children without fathers, and I think the importance of marriage has not been stressed enough to young adults, so they don't see it around them enough. So if you don't see things, you aspire to what you see. If you only see a mother raising a son by herself, then that's what she's going to follow into. So being married is not important, hasn't been deemed as important, or is not looked upon as being good, or the success rate is not great. So nobody strives to be married in the black neighborhood because they don't see it enough. I mean, all you see is single parents raising children, and what do they have to be inspired by? So if you don't have nothing to be inspired by, why would you follow something that's, you know, that's not inspiring to you? You only do what you see, and what you see is single parents raising children. So why be married? So, and the success rates are not great. So, and people not seeing people loving one each other, or two family households. So there's nothing to aspire to.
Okay, so what we are experiencing with families and the black family today is totally different. Well, I guess depending on where you're coming from, but I definitely think it's different than when I was growing up. I think that family was very important. It was the center of everything. And I think that now everybody's on the move. It's so busy that there's no time for family. And family isn't as important. The families don't sit together and talk. They don't do anything together. Do they don't pray together. They don't go to church together. They don't do the things together that were important, that created a real family. I think that people are, misunderstand what even family is all about, because people are so, well, these are my kids and this is my life and my this and my, everybody is me, and there's no family structure. No, you can't talk to somebody else's kid and check them about what they need to be doing, or you couldn't correct someone else's children. You can't do a lot of things, and you don't even have the same support for each other, because people are so so quick to frown upon somebody in their own family that they don't lend a helping hand anymore like you used to do. So family is, I think that's probably the bigger issue in the black community altogether, is the breakdown in the black family. It's real, and it's unfortunate and it's sad, but there has to be something that needs to be.
I don't think it's based on, it has not a lot to do with religion, because a lot of people aren't like religious believers. So there are people that are very religious that make mistakes also. So we can't just say because of lack of, being raised in the church, I guess, or believing in God, or having your own views about how you feel about, God has something to do with what's going on in the neighborhoods. I just feel like there are more things that's being seen as we see them as being bad, or being done, being seen on TV, on the internet, things that kids are right now are aspiring to, or things that they see on TV, or what's going on in the neighborhoods. I don't think that's has anything to do with a lack of religion, or people not being in church and being brought up or raised the right way. I think a lot of people that aren't as religious are successful also, so I don't think it has to do with lack of religion.
What do you think the causes are?
A part of being, right. I think a lot of us, a lot of kids are raised without, both parents. Not to say that there aren't successful people that have raised single, not to say that there haven't been single parents that raised great children.
Hi.
But if you look at statistics, it's probably going to say that most of the kids that are doing crime were raised in a single parent household, or were foster kids, moved around, didn't have the parenting, or just had issues growing up as a child, or they're probably they saw drug abuse, or they saw drugs in the neighborhood and things like that. So crime was probably was around them a lot when they were young. So that's what they've seen a lot in their lives.
So morals is definitely one of the issues. And I think that greed and the teaching of love for money and things is a big proportion of it, because people want to be rich to buy things that are perishable, like not really buying anything of substance or putting in value into anything of substance. The things that people value nowadays are what name brand they wearing, um, the grade of hair that they're purchasing, or the kind of car that they're driving, the place that they do their business, or who they know, or what organizations they're a part of. And I think that some of those things um, are where the values are placed, and they're not placed on the right things. And I'm not saying that anything is wrong with wearing a particular brand of clothing, or looking a particular way, but without any kind of foundation as to why you feel the need to look this way, or need to purchase or buy the things that you're buying. I think that's probably the bigger portion of the breakdown. Let's see. So the lack of religion, um, and that not permeate. I think that's a big deal, because I think that people have moved away from the church somewhat, and the black community definitely has moved away from the church. Definitely kind of moved away from the bigger portion of Christianity. I think we have a lot of black people who are obviously still Christians, but I think that some of the Christian principles um, don't seem to fit for black people in this country. I think that's probably a big deal. And also, I think that people having taken advantage of the church and being self-serving within the church, and then all of the hypocrisy in churches tends to shun people or shy people away from being a part of the church. And so then they equate what's going on with the people in the church with what the church actually is, and what the religion actually is. And I think that they're totally separate, and that you can actually have a base of understanding and be clear in your relationship with God without condoning the foolishness that's going on with people, because people are people. And I think people have put a lot of faith into people in the church, and that's where a lot has been lost based on that. And so now you have people who are not following any kind of religion. And so once again, it's all going back to morals. It's all kind of like two sides of the same coin.
I'm not recording. Okay. Go ahead, Marcus.
Go ahead, bro. Nah, I got it. So I guess the problems I will state is really just the teaching of the biblical teaching of what's right and what's wrong, and then also just teaching your kids how to prepare to implement the right way. For example, you know, the Bible teach no sex before marriage, but you have to also teach your kid realistically how to protect yourself in the worst case scenario. So I think just teaching the biblical, hey, what is the most, all the way to the right, best way to do things, but then also making sure realistically you are teaching them, hey, okay, that's the right way to do it, but for this situation, let's make sure this is the best way to go about it. If you're in a single parent household, hey, when you get older, you want to have a family, if you have a child, you take care of it. It's more about the teaching, and I think that's really what it boils down to.
When it comes to race and at homes, I just feel that there shouldn't be too much. When it comes to, I guess, dating and within the race and relationships, I feel like there shouldn't be too much pressure put on race. I feel that because children are taught to see race, children are taught to really see the differences. So I feel like there shouldn't be too much emphasis on that. At the same time, the child should learn about the culture. So whether they decide to date inside the culture or outside the culture, as long as you understand your history, your roots, and where you come from, and try to incorporate that to create a better world in a relationship, whether it's a single race relationship or a multi-race relationship, so you're dating someone outside your race. I think it's just really important to both bring the positives to the relationship, and that's how the child should be raised in terms of when it comes to relationships and race.
Okay.
So you're saying that our child can't date outside?
No, I'm just saying because you know how in the black culture you would say it's 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 negatively looked upon to say I would prefer you to date a black woman. But then when we look at Indian cultures, we like if their parents are saying, "Hey, I prefer you to be with the Indian girl." It's like, oh, it's cultural. But then when we say, "Hey, I want you to date a black woman," or we teach our sons or daughters to date a black man, you're like,
Well, why?
"Oh, why? Why should we focus on race?"
No, I'm just saying,
That's
if you're going to tell you, or if you're going to teach your child, like, hey, you should date this race, and then that's it, it's just like, okay, well, that's just, lack of a better term, ignorance. There has to be a reason behind it. So if
So
the
are
Indians,
Indians
I mean,
ignorant?
no, I'm saying if hopefully when the parents tell their children or encourage their children, hey, you should date Indians only, you should date within the races because,
Or within the culture.
or within the culture, yes, okay, so let's say you should date within this race or date within this culture. It's because you have similar values, you know, and because you guys have the same history and you can understand each other better, it allows for more of a connection. I would hope it's to foster a healthier relationship for the child. You're trying to protect the child and set them up for the best relationship, not just because I'm Indian, you're Indian, so they should date, or I'm black, they're black, so guys should date. Don't consider the other.
Though there are, nevertheless, obstacles that we face in America because of race, what can and should be done by us, African Americans, to solve some of the problems facing the nuclear family and marriage in our communities?
Okay, so some things that I think that we can do as a whole, what we need to do as a whole, is to teach black boys the importance of marriage. I think that if black males understood and valued marriage and what marriage was, and I think that that would um, have a better chance of really happening within the community. And also valuing the black woman and the black family, because you have to have black parents for black children. And I think that um, our society right now, in our community, definitely is over sexualized. And so sex is something that is being put out and sold as if it's just, oh, something that you do with for for the pleasure of the person that is doing it at the moment, and it's not being understood that it's supposed to be something that is between two people who love each other. And I think that love is something that has totally gone out the window. Like, we haven't really taught people how to love somebody else and to love themselves, and to be able to do both of those things simultaneously. And so it's important that teaching the strength in the black family is going to be important and moving forward. I don't know how in the world you can start that conversation or start those teachings, but that's something that really totally needs to happen.
In the last question that was given to us by our professor, there was a little fact that was provided for us in the beginning, and I'm going to read that little fact for you. It says, according to Newsweek of March the 3rd, 2003, from schools to jobs, black women are rising much faster than black men. And the question that our interviewees had to answer were, what are the consequences of this development for the marriage market, relationships, and families in the African American communities?
So, because we have a lot more, we as an African American woman, we have a lot more support now when it comes to our education, when it comes to opportunities, even when it starts for internships as well as for personal and professional development. So, growing up in of course, the community raises the child. So, growing up in a community that is so focused on education and career and personal development that we tend to not only focus on the family, well, that sounds horrible, You're very important, not just only focusing on the family, but in terms of focusing on only finding a husband. Like, that's not our sole purpose in life. So we're raised to get our education and then develop our careers, and then the man will eventually find us or will cross paths, and then you have to remain independent. So as soon as you get in a relationship, you don't just drop everything that you're doing. You're just like, okay, forget career, I'm just going to be a stay-at-home wife and just do the traditional role. There are a lot more opportunities now, and it's becoming accepted in society to have both the mother and the father, or the husband and the wife working in a household.
I think the main consequence of this situation is that if you look at the data from a decade, my assumption is that the percentage of African American male to female marriage will probably be down when you look at from 2000 to 2010, 1990 to 2000. You're probably going to start seeing a decline, and I think that's a consequence of that statistic.
Yeah, it's just no longer like, okay, we have to get married and we have to start a family, and then we'll make sure we focus on getting a man who has a strong income so we can stay at home. It's more so, okay, let's get ourselves right, which is traditionally, at least to my understanding, correct me if I'm wrong, but traditionally the men are like, okay, let me get my life straight, so let me make sure I get my education and get the job and all their personal affairs in order before they look into investing in a relationship. Investing, not just money, financial wise, I'm talking about investing emotionally, investing their time and their energy. And now women are now adopting that mindset. So yes, people are getting married later, or just like he said, the marriage rate is probably declining. So yeah.
Um, I guess the consequences per se, is that there will be more um, college educated black women than black men, although the numbers um, don't necessarily include all. I think that numbers are probably more based on 4-year institutions, and I think there are a lot of black men who are doing more trades and other occupations that are still have them capable of taking care of a family outside of being in college. Um, and so I just think that to say, like, okay, well, black women are going to college and black women are getting out there and being more of a force in the world, I don't think that's new. I think that black women have always um, done that. So I don't think that changes the dynamic of the family. I think that any time that you can add into what's going on in the family, then and anything that's coming into the family, then it's a positive thing. I think that as long as we are teaching men to check their ego and women to check their egos, um, and that everybody is doing what's best for the family or what's best for the community, I think that all of those things aren't necessarily a threat. I think that it's all positive. Anytime you educate a woman, you educate a family, because women are going to make sure, educated women are going to make sure that their children are educated. They're going to make sure that um, they are working in the communities, and that the children that are not theirs are going to be educated. I don't think that there's a threat. I don't think that educating black women is a threat in any way, and I think that the question kind of is skewed, because it's to say, like, oh well, on the outside it'll say, oh well, there'll be more black women for this, and so now you have like educated black women who won't have a husband or won't have a man because they'll all be uneducated. But I think that's hogwash, and I think that when you are concentrating on, oh well, maybe then what would be the answer to that? Less black women going to college? No, it would be figuring out how you now work this new dynamic with all these awesome women who are out here ready to kick butt in the world.
So now that you have watched my entire project, I really want to just take the time to do some reflection, because I feel like after doing such a big and deep project, you should really always have time to reflect. So, when I first got the project, I was thinking to myself, like, this is going to be a pain in the butt. How am I going to be able to interview these people and ask them all these questions? Some of these questions are too thorough. There are too many questions in a question. I was just really, really in the beginning just complaining because I looked at the time and I was just like, why would I make a project so long and everything? But when I really sat down and started doing the project, I was thinking to myself, like, he really wants us to get something out of this project. This is not just to make us upset or make us not have a life and take up our time by doing the project. No. My professor in security, he really wanted us to get something out of the project. And I believe that not only did I get something out of this project, but it really brought me closer to the people that I interviewed because you don't always get to ask them these type of questions. You don't always get to see people from that aspect or that side. And so me being able to understand the people that I interviewed in a different way about how they thought about these issues, it just really gave me an opinion about it as well. Like, though I know that I'm young and I'm in college, it really kind of prepares you for what you're going to get in life and what to look for. And so when they asked about the the difference between the interviewers and when they were growing up, I was thinking, like, it's really going to change drastically over time if when you continue to do this project, because dating and everything now, especially in like the black community, it's just so different. And I feel like a lot of these questions were based upon African Americans, but that it's going to start happening in other ethnicity. Like, it's not going to be African Americans with these type of problems, even though there's always going to be problems with African Americans. There's always going to be obstacles that we face in America because we're black. But as far as relationships and dating, I know it made me think, like, well, they're deep in love and they're way older than me, and I want that type of relationship. So I really took a moment and looked to see what was on my social media, and I kind of want to delete some of my social media because that's not exactly who I am. Like, it's my social media, but I don't want anyone to have an opinion about me or think a certain way about me after looking at my social media. Like, I want it to be like the old days where they actually sit down and have a conversation with me. And I don't want to have these social problems within my family. I want my children to have morals. I want them to really, especially if I have a son, African American son, to be taught to go to church more and just really be taught how to be a black man, not just what it's portrayed as or what the white people or Latino people it doesn't matter what they believe they are or how they feel about them. I want my son to be, or my child to be, the best they can be. I want them to be a great person in a relationship. I want them to be learning. I want them to be open. I just want so much more. Like, after doing this project, I just sit and I think about how much I want out of life and how much I want, like, to give to others. And so it really just changed, like, my perspective and how I'm gonna go about things. Like, even though I'm a freshman, like, I feel like upperclassmen can definitely learn from this, and other people under me and younger than me, I can definitely sit down and talk to them about this, because I don't want our generation to be looked at as the downfall and no one is in love anymore, no one gets married anymore, and divorce and single parents. I don't want that. And I feel like people don't understand it, and people don't believe that it's a problem. But it is a problem, and it's a problem that needs to be fixed. And it might be tough to do it, but I feel like it can be accomplished. It can get better if everyone just, just becomes better. But I actually really enjoyed doing this project. I'm glad I did it. I'm glad I took the time to do it. I'm glad I took the time to reflect. And I do believe that you should continue to do this project no matter how much your kids complain about it, your college students complain about it. You should continue to do it because people like me who complained in the beginning actually get a lot out of this. So thank you, and I enjoy my project, and I hope that you enjoy my project as well.